Welcome to The Clean Slate with your hosts, Daniel Garza and Carson Phillips, providing you with movie news, reviews, and more. Sit back, relax, and don't forget to go to the concessions to get your popcorn and drinks. For your entertainment, this is The Clean Slate Podcast.
Welcome back to the Clean Slate Podcast. I'm your host, Carson Phillips, here with Daniel Garza, and we are once again covering a found footage film, and this time, Chronicle.
Yup. Alright guys, so we got a really nostalgic movie for Carson and I. It actually came out the same year as our previous movie last week, The Conspiracy, 2012.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, neither did I until just right now. Alright, so here's the logline for Chronicle. 3 high school friends gain superpowers after making an incredible discovery underground. Soon they find their lives spinning out of control and their bond tested as they embrace their darker sides. Stop.
Yeah, plot-wise, this movie, it does kind of start out like your typical found footage, just 3 dudes kind of screwing around.
Yeah, no real reason to hold the camera and film.
He's just filming. I don't know why he's filming, actually. Like, it starts out with him filming, like, his abusive dad.
Yeah, that's the reason why he says, is because he can get it on camera.
But then he's not with his dad for the rest of the movie, basically. I think he uses their whole thing later on is that he's using it to like separate himself from the real world.
Yeah,
whatever. But it's a good enough reason, I guess. But basically, yeah, he's filming for no reason, and then one night his buddy and someone he wasn't really friends with before finds this hole in the ground that makes weird noises, and they're like, "Yeah, let's crawl on this hole."
Yeah.
And one thing leads to another, and they are granted, for lack of better words, superpowers. Telekinesis powers, I guess, maybe is a better way to say it. They can make things float. They can protect themselves. They can throw things. They can fly eventually. And so the movie kind of follows them exploring these superpowers, much in the way you would see teens in real life practice superpowers. Like, not very responsibly. They're playing football with them. They're building Legos. Like, they're just being goobers. And then eventually a rift does build between these 3 young men, and things get kind of crazy, like found footage films tend to do.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, first of all, just want to make a note that Michael B. Jordan stars in this film for all you ladies out there that want to just look at a young Michael. Dude. He's a very young actor in this one. He's probably like early 20s.
He's almost unrecognizable in this.
Yeah. And then you got
skinny too.
Dane DeHaan from what I know him from is the Amazing Spider-Man movies. He plays Harry Osborn.
Too, but.
Yeah. And then we got a couple of other smaller characters. But
Alex Russell.
Yeah.
He's in Blood in the Water is the only other thing I've seen. Only the Brave, the firefighter movie.
Yes, such a good movie. Anyway, okay, guys. So this movie had a budget of $12 million, opening weekend $22 million, and gross U.S. and Canada $64 million, gross worldwide $126 million.
Yeah,
this movie is a crazy huge success. So for all you haters out there,
they liked it.
They raked in all the money.
They liked it enough that they were like, "Hey, Josh Trank, the director,
yeah,
do you want to direct the next Fantastic Four movie with this Michael B. Jordan guy? That's gonna be amazing."
And then it was ass.
He ruined his career. Then he made the Al Capone movie with Tom Hardy after that, which further cemented him as the king of flops.
The one-note movie director.
His directing is over. He had a one-hit wonder.
Yep, that's true. That's very sad. Anyway,
that's
okay.
Sad.
Let's get into likes and dislikes. Likes for me.
What do you like?
I think this, for me, it's a nostalgic movie. Carson and I were talking about this earlier, of everything that we used to play as kids. Like, we used to play that we could fly, move things with our minds, all this different type of stuff, right? And it was a cross between having the Force and being like Spider-Man, pretty much. I don't know, or Superman.
They literally reference the Force like in this movie.
Yeah,
like when they're goofing around and stuff.
So I think it was something that I always wanted with our friendship, and just to see it played out on.
You always wanted us to have superpowers?
Oh yeah, for sure.
It would have ended better if it happened to us. Like, neither of us would be dead.
Neither of us have abusive fathers.
We'd still fight them for some reason.
So yeah, I think in Chronicle, it's such an easy film that I think the biggest thing for me was that they didn't focus so much on the sci-fi part and where the powers came from, right? They didn't just transform into like the Power Rangers and now they're on a mission to find why this is happening to them. They just
Power Rangers movie. Oh my gosh.
They pretty much just accept the powers and then now accept this as their new life of, you know, how they're going to be. And I don't know. I think it's such a, like, it's almost kind of like a coming of age film with like a young superhero.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And that's just what's fun because I think the found footage honestly matures the movie a bunch. Because if this wasn't found footage, I don't think it would be as interesting. But
yeah,
the found footage kind of makes it that grittier style of movie. Which is just always really, really fun to see because then you're seeing it from the perspective of somebody, not necessarily. And I think one of my favorite things too, is like the big climax that happens at the end. One of the boys he kind of becomes a villain. He takes control over all the video cameras, and then we're starting to get so many different angles from police cars to building cams, like security cams, to people filming on other things. Like it's just such a cool style that they did to make this found footage. Kind of what Carson said too. The beginning of it is it's a lot of found footage movies are rough to get into the reason why we're filming on a camera, but once we kind of get that point across, you can suspend your disbelief for a minute or suspend your belief
for an hour and a half.
Yeah, and I think it's just a really well written play, really fun repertoire between all the guys, and yeah, it was a fun watch and rewatch.
I agree. I mean, I think for me too, like the best part of it is the way the guys interact with each other. Like they're pranking people. They're acting how you would like you and I would act, right?
Yeah,
like when they
teenagers
move
who get
a woman's car to another parking space and they're just laughing.
Yeah.
When she walks out and they're like, "Oh, don't pay any attention to us," or like it's really funny. It kind of reminds me of like when we would just like drive around Lodi and like throw things at people. And stuff.
Exactly. But, or like TP people's houses. Stuff like that. Yeah,
just like normal like teen stuff. So I think that makes you like the characters a lot. And then also I like with the camera stuff you're saying, they do have a good excuse to use like more interesting camera techniques in this movie because they can levitate the camera. So we get some really cool visuals where the camera flips, like stuff that I think is fun in a way to make it not just someone holding a camera and shaking it every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, so they had a good use of the powers with the camera, and like you can get like, I'm sure they had it rigged up and were able to make it like float through and stuff. It was awesome. And then I guess the other thing I really liked is I feel like it, compared to a lot of other found footage films, this has like a complete storyline. Like it has an actual character growth even, which is rare in found footage movies. So like from a screenplay perspective, I think it's written much better than like Conspiracy doesn't have. It's very one note, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this works better on that level, and yeah, it's just really funny, and it's what I would do if I had powers.
Yeah.
Just goof around.
One last thing too is once we get our main villain that becomes a villain, I think it's a very Thanos-y style of villain because he has a reason why he's doing what he's doing.
Like
it's obviously
his dad sucks.
Right.
Hardcore sucks.
But it's pushed him to the point where he becomes this villain, and just the even the style of what he wears, like
his
the
costume,
the firefighter outfit is so cool looking with the mask and it was the coolest scene. And I think kind of like what you said, there's just a full good story here that you think you get a main character and you get a main character, but then you kind of jump between all characters really well.
You like all of them and dislike all of them at different points,
which
is good writing. Also, one more thing before we say our dislikes is for how relatively small budget, right? The movie does a lot with that budget.
Yeah, it does.
There's a couple iffy parts on the special effects, like when he's in Tibet at one point, that looks off.
Yeah. But
overall, it looks pretty good for such a low budget. Like they did a really good job of making it believable enough, right?
Yeah, and okay, well, let's get into our dislikes. I don't have many, but what do you got for a dislike?
I have some. Okay, I really only have one, and we talked about this before, and we talked about this literally earlier today, and it got us talking about iCarly and Nickelodeon. So like, there's some weird sexualization of females in this movie where they're like, they just have the camera and zoom in on some woman. Where I'm like, don't make it makes the characters sleazy when that's not really how the characters are perceived like throughout the rest of the film. So it just feels like dumb to put that in your movie. And we did talk about this too, is Max Landis is one of the writers on this, and he does not know what consent is. So maybe there's a reason that's in this movie. I'm not sure. I'm just pointing it out. It kind of annoyed me. Kind of felt like a Michael Bay movie when they did that too. Another weirdo. So yeah, but other than that, maybe the age special effects, I don't love that, and that's it. Like the rest of the movie, I really like the movie. It's just aged, I think, is the main thing. Like I know I'm seeing it through nostalgic eyes, like when I'm watching it. So I'm missing a lot of the flaws because of that. Well,
I mean, I agree with everything you said. To just tap on it a little bit further on the age special effects, it's pretty bad. Like there's some things that were happening in 2012 that were really good animation, and I think this is just because of small budget. That's what makes
also watching it on like a bigger 4K TV. You notice how much
it
worse it is than you realize.
Because you got like there's the one where because I mean, even when there's that scene with the girl in the store and then the floating bear starts like attacking her and whatnot, like that was fine. And even like the moving cars and all that type of stuff, those are really good.
The final fight's a little.
What?
The final fight is rough, like visually.
It's not as bad. The ones that stuck out to me were like when they're on the rooftop, they're all talking to each other, and then
that was bad. Actually,
and it's just like the background of what Seattle, and it's just so CGI. Like you knew that they're in a whatchamacallit, like a blue screen stage, sound stage, and you're just like ugh. But other than that, I mean, it's a really great film. I think my last one is that once one of the characters becomes the villain, it kind of gets cheesy a little bit how he plays the villain,
and how quickly he becomes like extra evil.
How
he's not moderately
the quick
evil.
descent to willing to hurt people. To be
it's
fair,
kind of the same problem as Conspiracy, where we have one person that's a little bit too rigid and one person that's becoming too crazy, like too fast.
Exactly.
So that balance doesn't quite work in this one either.
So anyway, but those are my only two complaints really. I think it's such a fun movie. It gives Super 8 vibes of like the buddy kind of story and sci-fi.
It's
and
pretty
just
funny.
Yeah, and exploring it all together at the same time. Yeah, it's a really fun film.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, do you have any other dislikes?
No, I mean, this is a good movie. If you haven't seen it in a while, I think it's worth revisiting. I actually ended up buying it. On Apple TV today because I was like, I'll watch this again. And I was looking at the special features, even like how they did like pre-visualization for this film, and like there's some test footage in there too. So it's just kind of cool that they put a lot of thought into how this movie was made. And I appreciate it.
Sweet. All right, guys. Well, that is the second movie of Found Footage February. We only got 2 more this month, so let us know how you're liking this. Let us know if you've seen Chronicle, what your thoughts are, if you agree with our thoughts. Man, I struggle sometimes. But if you haven't yet, go follow us on Instagram, TikTok. I think that's the only 2 we have. And then
Rumble.
We're on Grindr.
What?
And then go our YouTube channel, subscribe, follow us, put on those notifications of when we release. We try to release every single Friday with a new episode. So, happy Friday, guys, and we will see you next week for another episode.
Peace. That's a clean slate.